Welcome back, guys. This is Mike Brookman with Radan, and we are the Radan guys live once again. And today we're going to dive into some fun things with tags, microjoints, tabs, whatever you want to call it. We're also going to take a look at the use of pen color to assign curtain cut conditions. So, like we have in the past, we'll just give everyone just a couple of seconds to hop in. While we're waiting for them to join, I'm going to share my screen. Figure that out. Okay. We want to do the entire screen this time. We made that mistake in the past where if we aren't sharing the entire screen, we don't see the pop-ups. Hopefully, we're sharing the right screen. Yeah, it looks like we are. All right. Couple of housekeeping items and then we'll get going. I think we're live. These lives, I tell you, I don't know. Sometimes I think they work really, really cool, and other times I'm not sure if they're working at all. But okay, I think we are good to go now. So, if you're just joining us, sorry for the confusion. Once again, maybe it'll be like this every time. Maybe it won't, but nonetheless, let's dive into the software. Now, the point of doing this stuff live is to encourage engagement, to try to learn something new, and also maybe to take away the stigma that things are hard, or in a presentation there can, so they don't look like there's any mistakes or anything like that. This isn't training. This is just refresher. It's just, a real quick tip on how to do something that maybe you're curious about, or maybe you've done in the past and you couldn't get to quite work right. And so, what we're going to do today is just walk through tags. So, I've drawn a part here. It's got just a couple of holes in it. I'm in part mode. We're going to do some profiling. Just to clarify, if you are new to Radan or if you're looking at this, our profiling tab is identical, regardless if you do it in part or if you do it in nest. Now, the big difference is if you do it in part mode, it's contained to the part. The nester can't change it. So there are reasons why we allow that versus just forcing everyone to do it on the nest. There's more benefit to doing it on the nest. One, it's faster. You don't have to touch the parts. And two, when we get to the part where we're talking about smart order, that does it on the entire nest versus just on the part. So keep in mind, in this demonstration, we will just be doing it in part mode to kind of keep the visual aid of the part in bigger view of the screen. So we're going to switch to the profiling tab, and then we're going to go right into settings. And I'm going to jump into tags. I'm going to immediately just turn off everything. All right, so we have three options that we can do. We can do corner tags, we can do midline tags, and we can do single tags. So as you saw when I first opened this, the single tags was on, turned to all profiles. Now we're just going to walk through what it's actually examining on my part to assign. So we're requesting a 20 thousandths tag on any feature that's at least a quarter inch up to 9.99. So when I click apply, I've got five features. I got four holes and an external cutout. And if I zoom in on my hole, you can see there's my tag. That's going to be the same on all of my features. Move him up a little bit. There he is, tucked away there. So every feature has a tag, just like I requested. And we'll do the outside. Okay. If I change my tag size, maybe I want 60 thou, my tag gets bigger. There is going to be a value that we have set. We're not going to jump into that, but if I ask it to have like maybe a half-inch tag, it's not going to like that. I'm surprised actually that it performed that, but there's going to be a limit of when this doesn't work. Quarter inch is typically the tag size that we max it out at. So I was surprised that that actually worked. And there again, that's why we do this stuff live. It's not a canned presentation. It's just sometimes things are going to go goofy. A fat finger a key, or I do something. It's rare that something's going to be unexpected, but it could happen. So that's single tags. Single tags overrides basically the use of corners and midlines. Therefore, they're both turned off. We could have them active, but when we apply this, we're not going to get anything additional as far as our tags on corners or midline tags, because single tags overrides both of those, because it'll just produce one tag where that entry is. So in order to engage either of these, we need to turn this to never. Now I'm going to pick on midline tags just because it has a value in here currently that's going to work. And corner tags does take just a little bit of more understanding to kind of understand. So if we have our 20 thousandths tag, we have our midline mid minimum edge length 2 tag is set to 999, approximate tag interval 999. So this will produce one tag at our entry point. There again, I said I wouldn't be surprised if something happens weird, and now we've got something weird. We don't have a tag. Ah, interesting. We'll come back to that in a moment. Tag size 20 thou. Minimum edge to tag. So we've got two outside edges. We've got a 5-inch leg and we've got, I think, a 12-inch leg. So if I leave this at 20, I shouldn't get any corner tags, and I do not. I don't have anything on the corners, and I don't have anything at my entry here because I have single set to never. If I change this to something below my smallest leg length, so I'm going to say 5 inches, and I apply, now I've got tags on every corner. All of my lines meet that minimum edge length. Okay. I can set my minimum and my maximum amount of tags that I want. On my part, I only have just the four corners. So if I have this set to two, two is my requested and a maximum of two. I should get these on opposing corners, and I do. So I've got a tag there, and I've got a tag up here. Okay. If I tell it again, if I go back to I want all corners up to 20, I can use this slide bar to kind of influence how many I'm going to get. If I go more to the max, I'm going to get all four to come back. If I come more to the bottom, I could reduce this possibly all the way down to one. But that's probably what my minimum is if I do this to one. Okay, so I've just got it in one. If I slide it up just a little bit, still one. A little bit more, now I've got all of them. Okay, so it's the slide bar isn't as influential, I think, as just doing the restriction. Now I've got three of just how many you want. So if we want it to be on opposing corners, two and two. You also have different ways to enter. So we could have, right now we're coming in normal, we could come in tangent. When I do that, we'll focus just on this corner here. I've reduced my tag size to just the one leg length. Okay. If I have it set to normal, I'm getting a tag on both corners. So that's one thing to note on a corner tag is typically it's going to pull the tag in both directions. So if this was 20 thou or 30 thou, this is 30 thou in both directions. Okay. Hopefully we were following that. I'm going to switch to midline and let's take a look at why that was failing. Back into settings, tags. It's a bit interesting to me that that did actually fail. Hmm, confused by that. God, I am so dumb. Okay, This, at the moment, when we talked about minimum edge to tag, my minimum edge is set to nearly 1,000 inches. So obviously that's going to be a problem because my part's not 1,000 inches. If I change this to my minimum edge to tag to 2 inches, I'm going to get midline tags on all four of my legs because I've got a 12-inch side, a 5-inch side, and a 12 and a 5, etc. The reason this is set to 999 is because of the use of placing the tags manually where we want them to go. Okay, so real quick, let's just explain this a little bit further. So if I put this back to 2, all my legs are then active. So we'll reapply that. Yep, tags on all corners. If I change this, let's say I have a really long part, like a 80-inch part, and I want to have additional tags just in the middle, I can address that. So I'll say, okay, we're gonna pretend that my 12-inch leg is my long one. So I'm gonna say it has to be at least 10 inches. So if I reapply this, notice my 5-inch legs drop. I only have it on my 12-inch side. And then if that qualifies, so there again, I'm going after that 80-inch guy, right? If that qualifies, well, then I want to have a tag in this case every 2 inches. Now I've got a bunch. Okay, so maybe if that was that 80-inch part, maybe I wanted to do it on 20s. So, and then if this interval breaches that midpoint, so if I say 6, I'm just going to get one back in the middle. Well, I should say 7 because 6 is actually in the middle of 12. Does that make sense? Where if we go, our interval is more than half of the distance of the part that we're trying to stagger, it'll just go back to the center. Okay. All right. Yeah, there again, I'm glad that I came to my senses and figured out why this was broken because it shouldn't have been. All right. But I put this back to 999 because as we've kind of satisfied all the need, we talked about corners, the midlines, and singles. If we want to put these in our special place, right? So if we have a variety of different ways that we can do that. We can go to our datums and we can pull up a T datum. Then I have this little icon, so I can put a midline tag kind of wherever I want. Maybe we'll do something like that. I want them on opposing edges, but I didn't necessarily want them to be in the corner. All right. So now if I come back into settings, I needed to have this allow that, right? If I have this on, and now if I apply, I only get tags where I suggested my tags to go. If I had this still set up like we did earlier, like if I wanted it to be 2 in intervals of never, I just want it to be in the middle. But now I'm still examining my part as far as applying these midline tags, and now I'm going to get them wherever I get a 2-inch leg that qualifies for that line. Notice I didn't get any additionals on my legs that are 12 inches because I've already put a midline tag datum on there. But now I've introduced additional tags that I don't necessarily want. So to prevent that, I need to have the ability to be able to add a midline tag, but I don't want any other tags on my part except for where I put my marker. Now that's going to be true what we do here in a moment because I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to grab my T datum again. And I'm going to put one on the corner. Okay. And then I'm going to come into settings and we're going to just say, okay, corner tags. I'm going to deactivate this. All three of these should come up with as a flag, as a problem. Because even though I'm requesting on my part, I want these, I don't have any way of providing it, right? So I need to activate the ability to do these. So my minimum edge it's still going to look at that, and it's still going to look at this, and then I apply. So now I've got a tag on my midline, and my corner. So that might be some place where you guys are struggling, like when you're trying to introduce a manual placement, but it doesn't actively work. You have to have the ability still to be able to produce that tag. Okay. So with these off and my selection doesn't work. Now to delete these are actual pieces or components basically. They're not necessarily tooling. So I can't just window this. Notice just all my tooling goes. These are markers that I wanted specifically to remember. So to delete them, I actually have to go to this uh, datum delete tool to get rid of those as well. Okay, the last thing about tags is let's go ahead and tool our part up without any tags. Okay, all we get is just tooling. And then we can come up and we can manually put tags anywhere we want them. They're an intermittent tag that's not a permanent suggestion of where we want them to go, similar to what we would do with our T datums. But we can go under profile tags and bridges, and I can go into my tags, and I can have a lead in or and a lead out, a tag width, and a style of midline or corner. If I pick midline, anywhere that I can place this, it'll do a tag. It'll keep breaking that as long as I don't go select an area that's smaller than my tag desired length. So maybe I want to really put this here, right? See how I can keep breaking that until 20 thousandths is too small to break, and that's at my limit. So this is the easiest way to place a tag where you may want one. Like I want maybe another midline tag there, switch to corner. I want a corner tag there, and I want a corner tag there. But those are all temporary. So if I go to tooling and somehow mistakenly delete all my tools, they're going to go too, as long as you have the right delete method on. Okay. Similar to how we did the T datums, once I deleted my tooling, my position stayed. Here, it's all gone. So hopefully that kind of brings into light how we use tags. All right. As promised, we're going to move now into talking a little bit about color. Last week, we kind of spent a lot of time in rules and styles. And we talked about this area right here where we developed on small, medium, and large different size increments. So my holes are 1/2 inch, but I'm going to make my smalls up to quarter. I'm going to make my mediums up to 5/8 just to make sure that they produce what I want. So I should get two conditions. My fast cutting is the outside, and my slow or medium cutting is going to be my holes. If we go back to our part, the geometry of our part, and if I come over to um, edit properties, edit common properties, and I change the color. So right now, my cut condition 2 is red. I'm going to change it, this one and this one, to green. And then I'm going to come back into my profiling under settings. And if we look at how we have our pen set up, our a black pen has no bearing on any additional information. But if we have red, it's going to be medium, green, slow, blue isn't defined, light blue is etching, purple is telling us the part's already been tooled, etc. So there's a variety of different colors we can associate to the parts. So I've introduced color now to my parts, it's geometry. And prior to that, I had rules and styles set up to address my feature size to apply how I wanted my cutting to appear on my part. Now when I click apply, I'm going to get three conditions. My outside's in black, and this hole, my green one, is my super slow speed. And then this one that we didn't address, still black as far as color. When we look at the drafting, it's still in black. Well, right now it's purple because it's being selected, but it's black versus this one that's in green. I know that's difficult to see probably, but you saw me do it and you know what we're talking about. So what the purpose of this is to show that color overrides our size requirement. So we can address things with size, which kind of then rules and styles takes care of, or we can force it to do exactly what we want to do by introducing color. Now, most cases when color comes into play, it's when we're going to be adding things like etching. So there's etching is a couple different things we can do to have it be right, or sorry, text. If we have, I just put my name. I put Mike on here. It's in black and it's just information. But if I put Mike again and I say I want to realize in the drawing and I want it to be in my etch color, is doing two things at the same time. It's applying it down. If I go to my delete, notice when I go to delete the first mic, the one that's in black, it's just information. Perhaps there's further instructions that you want to put on this part, and it needs to be there so the operators can see it, but it doesn't do anything. It's just information. Whereas this, I dropped this down and realized it or exploded it. So it made it lines and arcs. And then I also put it into a color that my tooling is going to recognize. So when I check to see if geometry is closed, it ignores both of those. Now we're going to hop into that in a moment. But if I just refresh the screen, now Mike is back and Mike in blue is back. When I go to profiling, the mic in black stays. It's being ignored. And then when I go to process my tooling on this, I get tool path under etching on my mic. Just center line cut being etched. Okay. So if we jump to why we can allow this to happen, I've got if you go up to configure, machine configuration editor under pens, I'm telling it to ignore pens 0, 5, and 8. Okay. So if I go back here and if I draw something, maybe we'll say in pen 9, maybe this is a bend line that's coming through here. And I don't necessarily want to cut the whole thing. So I'm just going to draw that over. I was going to be more precise, but we'll just draw it over. We'll just say we want to nick it from here to here. Okay. And we want that to be cut. Maybe this is really thin material so that we can just hand bend it. But if I check my geometry, Radan dislikes this because it's an open feature, basically. So how I get around this is I need to introduce pen 9 to be ignored. So I'll come back in here to machine configuration editor under pens. I'm just going to add 9, click OK. And if I come in here profiling, I don't know what to do exactly with pen 9 just yet. So I'm going to come into pens, browse down to pen 9, just double click pen 9, and we're going to tell it we want condition or fast condition, but we want to just cut it as an open profile right down the middle, similar to how we would do etch, but we're going to cut it instead of etch it because we're telling it instead of our etch condition, we want to do regular high speed cutting. Then we'll click OK and then apply. So now I've got my high speed cutting is going to be coming right down that line. We can zoom in close. We'll see it's going right down the center of our line with no lead in. Whoops. No lead in on our ends. Just right down the line. So there's some things that we can do to have fun with our pen colors. Hopefully you guys have learned something new today. I got a bit of an announcement next week. I will be out on the road, so we're going to skip next week's live on Tuesday. I apologize for that. But the week after that, I'm also going to be on the road at FabTech, and we will do a live. We'll kind of walk around the show and kind of just have a good time. So let me stop sharing. I think we can do that right down here. Great. All right. So our final goodbyes. Thank you so much for joining today. This has been Mike with Radan and the Radan Guys Live. See you guys in 2 weeks at FabTech. If you're thinking of going to FabTech, check us out on our booth at A5455. We're sharing the booth with all the Hexagon guys. I will be down at the Mazak booth. So we'll see you guys then. Talk to you soon.